You know, I just found out that, well, I didn't find it out, I just heard about it. Like, hermit types, they're not supposed to put their faces on the camera. That's cool. I'm not a hermit, I'm a recluse, so I guess you could see some of my face some of the time. But I'm going to be more conscious of that because I'm not trying to get... It's not really about me. And I also got to thinking, it's probably why it's harder to talk to a void, because of the fact that I'm not facing face. And when you start facing, talking to each other from face, it's almost like that just encourages you to develop an image or a thing to be self-conscious of, and I get plenty enough to be self-conscious of just on the inside. So let's make some space and time to put Mr. Yuan Wu in our void spot. I'm going to start with the introduction and see how long we go. This book is by J.C. Cleary and Thomas Cleary. It's called Zen Letters, The Teachings of Yuan Wu, and please forgive pronunciations, they will not be perfect. These letters were written by the Zen teacher known as Yuan Wu to various friends, disciples, and associates, to women as well as to men, to people with families and worldly careers, as well as to monks and nuns, to advanced adepts, as well as to beginning seekers. Yuan Wu is best known as the author of the single most famous Zen book, the Blue Cliff Record, a collection of meditation cases with prose and verse comments. The Blue Cliff Record is an intricate web of Zen lore with endless subtleties. Here, in these letters, Yuan Wu delivers the Zen message in a more accessible form, in direct person-to-person lessons. Yuan Wu was a public spokesperson for the tradition of wisdom that he saw coming down from time immemorial. In his Zen tradition, the man usually considered the historic founder of Buddhism was seen as just one Buddha in a long line of enlightened ones extending back before history as we know it. In fact, Mahayana Buddhist texts regularly speak of all the Buddhas of past, present, and future. Mahayana sutras, like the flower ornament scripture, depict a vast universal process of enlightening teaching taking place in all worlds and all times through an infinite variety of forms. The enlightened ones appeared in the world as teachers to alert people to the unsuspected fact that all of us possess an inherent potential for objective wisdom and unselfish compassion, called Buddha nature. These teachers meant to enable us to become aware of our Buddha nature and to gain the use of it in our everyday life. Zen Buddhism, like all other branches of Mahayana Buddhism, maintains that it is the true destiny of every person to become enlightened. From the perspective of Zen Buddhism, emotional alliances, dogma, mechanical ritual, clerical careerism, and sectarian institutions must be seen as the enemies of true religion. True religion is by nature multiform. It consists of whatever practices and techniques and perspectives are effective in awakening the people of particular times and places and restoring their awareness to reality in itself, an absolute reality that contains all relative realities. Without their getting trapped in any of their limited perspectives. No particular technique is worshipped as a panacea. All techniques are no more than expedient means employed by expert teachers to meet the specific needs of specific seekers. The practice of Zen consists of a collection of liberative techniques that rest on a profound analysis of human perception and conditioning. In common with these seers of the other equivalent traditions around the world, the Zen adepts observed that ordinarily people are encased in a shell of emotion-laden, conditioned perceptions that shape their motivations and limit their experience to a narrow range of standardized perspectives. Ordinarily, people refy the concepts they have been unwittingly conditioned to believe in and to project upon the world. They see them as objectively true realities out there, rather than as the arbitrary cultural constructs they are. Thus, the Zen teachers actively worked to untie the bonds and melt the sticking points that were keeping their students' minds tied to habitual routines and conventional perceptions. The Zen tradition, like all of Mahayana Buddhism, is invincibly optimistic about human possibilities. Our true identity, our inherent Buddha nature, can never be destroyed. It is our basic essence, and it is with us always, waiting to be activated and brought to life. A quote says, "The sword that kills is the sword that brings life," runs an old Zen saying. The sword of wisdom that cuts away the conditioning and contrived activities that make up our false personality is what frees us and brings us our enlightened potential out into the open. The Mahayana seers did not agree with the modern materialists that we are basically animals forced by the demands of civilization to pit our feeble rationality and precarious moral sense against our submerged yet implacable instinctual drives. Nor did the Mahayana teachers follow the dualistic religions in seeing earthly life as an arena of sin and temptation where humankind is tested to qualify for the heavenly life, or heavenly afterlife. From the Mahayana point of view, once the human mind is washed clean of its conditioning and stripped of its delusions, the ordinary world is the site of enlightenment, suffused with the light of the source, where liberated humans can wander at play, naked and free, living the life of wisdom and compassion. Needless to say, Yuan Wu, who was born in 10,063 and died in 11,035, lived in a world in many ways different from our own. In Yuan Wu's time, Manhattan Island was a leafy forest crisscrossed with streams of clear water. The great cities of Mexico and Peru had not fallen to the conquerors from across the sea. The Americas, Africa, Australia, and Oceania were home to a mosaic of diverse cultures, each a symbolic world unto itself, and with its own rich history and tradition and way of life. The old world of Eurasia and North Africa had already seen empires come and go for millennia. Armies, taxes, bureaucracies, castes of nobles and warriors vying for power, ancient traditions of scholarship and learning, populations of peasants and herders eking out a living. The West European onslaught against the rest of the world had not yet begun, and the world was home to immeasurably greater cultural diversity than it is today. And no one had yet dared to assert that military superiority was the same as cultural superiority. China, in Yuan Wu's time, was dotted with giant urban centers that were the focal points of administration, commerce, and high culture. A network of officially recognized Buddhist institutions existed throughout the country. The ancient political philosophy of Confucianism had been revived and reworked under Buddhist influences. Taoism, too, was taking on new forms, strikingly parallel to Zen. Chinese culture and literature in the Song dynasty reached an unprecedented level of clarity and elegance. But there were severe problems as well. Sporadic peasant uprisings broke out to challenge the growing inequity of wealth. Is it inequity? No, it's inequality. The inequality of wealth. A reform-minded faction in the imperial bureaucracy aroused the bitter opposition of the bulk of the landlord elite and went down to defeat. Whew. Though adequate to the task of keeping the peasantry in check, the bloated military establishment was about to go down to crushing defeat at the hands of a relative handful of barbarian invaders. Whatever its glories, the world of the Song Dynasty China was anything but the serene homeland of the wisdom of the East that some modern Westerners like to imagine. Given the vast historical distance that separates us today from Song Dynasty China, it is all the more remarkable how directly Yuan Wu's letters communicate with us about the universal issues of the life of wisdom. Maybe we mistakenly overestimate the differences between ourselves and the people of other times and places. The differences in the technological environments are obvious. But then, as now, people were caught up in their conditioning, driven on by their hopes and fears, eager to live up to socially defined goals and pursue images of the good life. Aren't the perceptions of most of us today still structured in terms of self and other, gain and loss, love and hate, desire and aversion? Don't we automatically assume that these dualities reflect an objective reality that leaves us no choice in the matter? If so, then the message of Yuan Wu's writings still holds something of great value for us. That message is multidimensional and unfolds more fully in the translation below. But for now, just a taste of the timeless wisdom. If you cut off outward clinging to objects and inwardly forget your false ideas of self, things themselves are the true self, and the true self itself is things. Things in true self are one suchness, opening through to infinity. If you are attached to perception, then it is a perception. It is not arriving at the truth. Those who arrive at truth transcend perception. But they manage to use perception without dwelling in perception. When you pass directly through perception and get free of it, it is all the function of fundamental truth. It is all the fundamental truth. Hey, 15 minutes. We'll read just one, and then we'll quit this one, and we'll read more tomorrow because, I don't know, we'll see how it plays. If where you stand is reality, then your actions have power. Ever since iniquity, with excellence beyond measure, the saints and sages have experienced this great cause alone, as if planting great potential and capacity. By the power of their vows of compassion, they have brought forth direct indications of the one thing that is most profound and most recondite? The common essence of all the myriad forms of being. Without setting up stages, they abruptly transcend to realize this essence alone. Since before the time when nothing existed, this essence has been ever still and unmoved, determining the basis of all conscious beings. It permeates all times and is beyond all thought. It is beyond holy and ordinary, transcends all knowledge and views. It has never fluctuated or wavered. It is there, pure and naked and full of life. All beings, both animate and inanimate, have it complete within them. That is why, when Shakyamuni Buddha was first born, he immediately pointed to the heavens and to the earth, and with a great lion's roar brought it out in front. And then, after he had left home and sought enlightenment for 6 years, he awakened at the sight of the morning star. In the end, On Vulture Peak, he initiated the Zen transmission by holding up a flower. All that was important is that we should possess the comprehension of this true I. From the time of Shakyamuni, the true I was secretly transmitted through the 28 Indian patriarchs and the Chinese patriarchs. Those who did not know of the existence of the true I of enlightened perceptions thought that there was some kind of supernatural power or magical ability. Is that it? Okay. Involved, and just spoke of going along with the waves and pursuing the current, never searching out the root of the transmission. If you discover this ultimate import, there is no need to poke into it. In olden times, when Marquis Li met Zen Master Simeon, Simeon said to him, "It is the business of a truly great man, not something that can be done by mere generals and high officials." Li understood right away and expressed himself in verse. To study the way, you must be an iron man, to lay hold of the mind and act decisively, heading directly for unexcelled enlightenment, paying no attention to any affirmation or denial. In general, when superior wisdom, excellent capacity, and natural potential are already there, it is just a matter of working to penetrate through surely and truly. When you put it to use, you command great potential and unfurl great function, moving even before the impulse to action, operating free of things. Yan Tao said, "Spurning things is superior, following things is inferior." If we talk about battle, each one's strength is in the turning point. If you can turn fast on top of things, then everything will submit to you, and everything will be in your grasp. Capturing and releasing, rolling up and rolling out, all can be transformed. At all times, you remain peaceful and tranquil, without having anything whatsoever hanging on your mind. In action, you accord with the situation and its potential, holding the means of discernment within yourself. Shifting and changing and successfully adapting, you attain great freedom. All things and all circumstances open up before your blade, like bamboo splitting, all bending down with the wind. Therefore, if where you stand is reality, then your actions have power. Needless to say, leading brave heroes, commanding fierce warriors, routing powerful bandits, comforting the farmers, pacifying the nation, and assisting in the work of restoring social harmony and cultural fluorescence, all depend on this one revelation. Turning the topmost key, achieving something that cannot be taken away in 10,000 generations. You see and hear the same as the ancient Buddhists, and share the same knowledge and functioning. The fourth patriarch said, "If not for mind, there's no question of Buddha." Dishan said, "A Buddha is just someone with no concerns." Yang Jia said, "It is not apart from here, always profoundly clear and still. If you search for it, you know you cannot see it." Lin Chi said, "The real being with no status is always going in and out through the doors of your face." This is the substance of all these sayings. So, that'll do us. I hope you guys will enjoy these books. I will. Good night.